Sadhu, 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 anumodami.
For the Dhamma talk. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask, they can raise their hand, or you can send the questions in via the chat box, and we can read them out.
Anushka.
Hello, Ajahn Acharya.
Hi.
Ajahn, you just mentioned about watching the elements. Would you please talk a little bit about how you do that, please? I would appreciate that. Thank you.
So it's actually part of the Samanera ordination ceremony that the preceptor gives the one going forth. It's called Papaja, going forth. He gives them their first meditation object, which is to know the hair of the head, hair on the body, nails, teeth, and skin. And it's said in Pali, of course, Kesa, Loma, Naka, Danta, Tacho. And so that's our first meditation instruction from our preceptor. We train in knowing those elements first, as we see them as their separate part. So just in seeing hair on the head as just hair, we're already in simply doing that. We're not creating a self. We're not being vain. We don't care about the hairstyle. We don't care about the length. We don't care how much gray there is. We just know that it's hair. And then we also contemplate then that it's earth element. So all of these elements have a dry quality, and they're on the outside of the body. The teeth and the nails, I think it's somewhat even easier because they're hard, you know. And so just as you would become aware of your in-breath put, your in-breath though, you get familiar with holding awareness within the parameters of the body. You then bring this mindful awareness and just place it in that area. So you just mindfully know hair is hair. Don't have to think about it a lot. You just know that hair is hair. And you just know that that's earth element. And then similarly with the teeth, it's like little rows of white pebbles in the mouth. You just know this hard thing is like a stone. You just know teeth, and you can you can say it in your language, breathing in teeth, breathing out teeth. I use the Pali, breathing in danta, breathing out danta. Just similar method. Still with the breath, still with a mental recitation. Broadly aware of the breath, but placing the awareness on that area and just knowing teeth is teeth, and then knowing that teeth is earth. What happens is if we do this a lot and we do it consistently, the mind really can concentrate on just teeth. And so it's like you, with your eyes closed, your mind's eye will see the teeth and just the teeth, not the gums, not the blood, not anything. I just see teeth. And so then there's kind of the obvious result is that one sees that the body is not self, because we have this tendency to interpret the whole thing functioning altogether as me, my body, I, mine. But when you start to see it in parts and you see very, very clearly, these are like rows of little white pebbles. They're like stone, it's earth. And then when a person gets adept at knowing earth element as earth element with right mindfulness and right concentration, one can then also eventually separate the awareness of that which knows earth element as earth element from the known, and can have quite profound insights. It's like in letting go of that little bit of earth element, you can let go of your attachment to all earth element. And then people have these temporary liberation experience where the mind lets go of the world, because the world that we're in is made of the four elements.
Yes.
That's where it goes. And but many great practitioners, and particularly in this day and age where people do have issues with thinking, because we were we've all been through an education system. We've all been educated, and so we've been taught to think, formulate opinions, speculate, and comment endlessly. Previous generations possibly had less of that. Rice farmers, basket weavers, fishing people that did a simple task that was very reflective, repetitive. They probably had less discursive, constant thinking about things and commenting on things. So it seems to be the case that for modern people, using thought a little bit and using contemplation a little bit is often the gateway into the actual liberation experiences. So for Luang Por Man, for Luang Por Chah, for Thanajananand, this body contemplation component practice was very instrumental in their big breakthroughs when it really went from the small insight to the very big insight, from the small letting go to the profound letting go. And so it's one of those things. I'm glad you asked the question, because it sounds so simple and it seems so kind of boring in a way that people overlook it. They don't realize what a jewel, what an incredible tool we have. And just to train your mindful awareness to be mindful as teeth, people don't realize that can become nibbana. But it really does. It can and really does. And we have a lot of examples of great practitioners who did body contemplation and then were able to see from the body parts which one was which element, and then separate the awareness from that element and have quite profound letting goes. Because our attachment is based on perceiving this body as us, most of our attachment. So if we can see a part of it clearly as just that part, then see that part as that element, and then let go for periods of time, the letting go can go from small to profound to complete letting go.
Ajahn.
Yeah.
Is that when the mind separates from the body? Well,
it's like separating awareness, separating that which knows from that which is known.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And oftentimes people do the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin is the beginning. Once you know how to do that, often people do the skeleton. So
Yes.
there's ati, the bones, and when the knowing the skeleton, in particular, like things like if you watch breath, if you observe the breath in the nose, right, and you get a sense of a skull, you can be aware of the breath, and then you can actually see the skull there. If you're aware of the breath in the chest area, you might get a sense for the spine, just holding the body up, and it's this awareness of the spine while you're doing this, and then the sense of self can fall away, because when the right mindfulness sees a spine as bones, there's no self there, right? And so it's the natural response of just picking that meditation object up is the delusion of misapprehending it, perceiving it incorrectly. That just falls away because the mind is perceiving it more correctly. Our spine is a spine, it's bones. It's not I, it's not mine. The self view falls away.
So no one's breathing.
That's it. There's just the breath. There's just nama and rupa, not affected by the self view.
Oh, thank you, Sadhu, Ajahn. Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you too.
Yeah.
In my practice in Bodh Gaya, I was using mostly breath meditation, but probably about half of it was metta, because there's a lot of impingement and you can fall into irritation. So probably about half of it was metta, and then probably about a quarter of it was contemplating the body as elements. And then the other 25% was just being with the breath once the mind was actually peaceful, just being with the in-breath, being with the out-breath, with the sense of the spaciousness. But we do need to use these other samatha practices and contemplative practices, cultivate the various things we use to. Thanajananand says, keep the mind in the middle, don't fall in liking and disliking. But we need to cultivate the tools that enable us to do that, to bring the mind to a state of balance, state of clarity. More questions? Another question, Anushka? Yeah.
If no one has a question, may I please ask you to explain the way you practice that metta meditation, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so the way I do it usually starts with compassion, and it usually starts with compassion for myself. So here I am, I've been a monk and a novice for 28 years. I still have suffering. So when your mind gets more sensitive, your sensitivity to suffering also gets more. So it's like, even if you have a little bit of suffering, you're aware of your suffering. That's part of right mindfulness, is to know suffering characteristic. And so suppose I'm under the Bodhi tree and there's some person talking loudly right next to me, and it's, the mind starts to go into, this is inappropriate, this is the place of the Buddha's enlightenment, this is the sign up on the tree that says silent area, it's like the mind starts going into that. Then what I do, because I'm not going to tell every person that talks too much under the Bodhi tree to shut up, because where would you start and where would you stop? You would be walking around telling people to shut up all day. And that's not a path to liberation, as far as I'm aware. So we have to tell ourselves to shut up with metta, of course. And so, I look at that beginning of feeling of irritation and that wanting to express irritation. That's an unpleasant feeling. And so I notice the unpleasant feeling of my own aversion or irritation. And then I'm aware that that's suffering. Right? Sometimes you can ask yourself, is there suffering present? Is this painful? And then whatever hindrance that you experience when you're trying to meditate, there will be a painful mental feeling there associated with it. Whether we notice it or not, there is. Often we're kind of caught in the content, so we don't notice the feeling. But if you get somewhat adept at placing the seed of awareness in that heart area, you will notice that whatever hindrance is present, there's feelings there. And they're all unpleasant. If it's a hindrance, they're unpleasant. And so, with sexual fantasy or whatever, it can be dizzying, there can be some kind of elation. But if you're looking at the heart area, the heart's oppressed, it's painful. And so I just go to that feeling, and then recognizing that there's suffering present. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. Breathing in, may I be well. Breathing out, may I be happy. And one of the wonderful challenges of working in Bodhgaya is that sometimes there's so much irritating phenomenon. For hours, so many people are ill-behaved that you have to practice so much metta that when you have kind of breakthroughs, you may have some quite illustriously profound and very amazing metta states, because you just had to do so much of it as an antidote in response to all of the inappropriate, bad-mannered, poor-behaved, blah, blah, blah. You have to practice so much metta to get through it. And then sometimes it's just metta, a lot of metta. It doesn't matter who did what. It's just, may all beings be well, may all beings be happy, may all beings well, may all beings happy. So once the metta chitta starts to flow, as it were, then you increase it to include other beings. So, and for myself, sometimes in Bodhgaya, I just go from may I be well, may I be happy, may I be well, may I be happy. And then once metta's flowing, it becomes may I be well, may all beings be well, may I be happy, may all beings be happy. I just go from this being that was previously suffering a bit. Once that suffering's not there, okay, may all beings be well, may all beings be happy. Bodhgaya kind of inspires some boldness or grandness in one's efforts. But generally speaking, we go from the practicing for oneself to including beings for whom it is easy to feel loving kindness towards. So whichever of your parents you got along with or feel natural gratitude, respect for, or parent-like figure, or teachers for whom benefit us and we naturally feel gratitude. We include those types of beings first. And then the larger numbers of neutral beings, and then eventually the beings you find difficult. But you do it, spend a few minutes on each, and then eventually all beings everywhere.
Thank you,
But it's good
Ajahn.
it's really important to work on that first stage, because it's such an effective, whenever you have suffering, if you can just apply some loving kindness to yourself, to that experience, there's already less suffering just in that. Just in doing that much, there's less suffering. So everybody wants to be free from suffering. So here's a samatha practice that reduces the amount of suffering very quickly if you become adept at it. Just sincerely wishing, may I be well, may I be happy, aiming some unconditional love or some loving acceptance, some goodwill, some friendliness to your painful mind state. Just be kind to yourself. And then you've got this tool that you can use whenever you need it. And oftentimes it can be used to kind of put the brakes on what might become a really unwholesome mind state. If you get adept at picking it up quickly and applying it sincerely, pacify that suffering, pacify that reactivity, get the metta chitta going, and then it can become quite an expansive and illustrious mind state. But we do have to get that first level. So I think practicing with the metta chitta until the feeling of suffering really falls away from the mind. We just do it, we just do it, we just do it until that hindrance of ill will, aversion, whatever it is, falls away. And then just enjoy the metta chitta, and then expand it, include more beings. And we can see the Tanajananda does teach to cultivate metta as a support to cultivating the four foundations of mindfulness, because it does lower the level of ill will. It already weakens the amount of ill will hindrance. And the Buddha does say in the 11 Benefits of Loving Kindness Sutta that for those who cultivate loving kindness, the mind becomes peaceful quickly and easily. So everybody wants a peaceful mind. Everybody kind of struggling, trying to make their mind peaceful. And Lord Buddha gives very clear instruction that for those who cultivate metta, the mind becomes peaceful more easily, more quickly. So most of us need to do quite a bit of it. So.
Thank you very much, Sadhu.
It's another one of those practices that people think, oh yeah, I should have metta. Oh, it's nice to be nice. And again, they kind of underestimate the profundity, where it can lead. It's actually possible. It's not so common, but it is possible to liberate your mind using the metta jhana. And I think Lord Buddha describes it as the most beautiful of the liberations, because the mind goes from this beautiful metta state to this beautiful liberated state. It's already bright and beautiful, and then it goes from bright and beautiful to pure. And the way that one can practice to develop insight with metta is, if a person develops it to the point of appana, the jhana, then one trains in knowing, as the mind comes out of that state, how it comes down to a more ordinary state, from the jhanic state to the upacara state. And just in noticing that, okay, it's not in the absorption, it's in upacara, it's coming out of upacara, just noticing that change as the metta chitta kind of comes out of the jhanic state. Person can have an insight, practitioner can have an insight into impermanence and experience not self and be liberated. So another powerful, very, very powerful meditation practice.
Well, we've been also using listening to your chanting. I was able to download it, and so it's very easy because we have it on easily on iMusic or something. But that's been very helpful as well.
I was mindful that not everybody gets to live in a forest on a mountain, and that people need tools to shift from an agitated, busy state sometimes to a more peaceful state. That's why I was involved in producing some chanting like that. I'm glad it was helpful.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Very good. Sipida.
Hi.
Sipida, hi.
Hi, Ajahn.
Hello.
I am the girl from Iran. How are you doing?
I'm good,
so
thank
glad talking to you. Ajahn, I read somewhere long time ago many more. I don't remember the numbers again. 6 numbers in the throat, and so on. So I was trying to figure that out with myself, and it's. I'm sure I'm not doing the great job as you are. So I was wondering if you can. I know it must be hard to put it on words, but is it possible to tell us which feelings you're feeling, so I can, if it comes to words, and I know it consciously, then I can find it more easily?
Right. Yeah, I think I
Is
personally,
it a hard question? I understand it's hard to put the words on feelings. But
no. So I think this is almost like my kind of sense is this is how your mind might be tricking you, that if you think about it more, you'll get it more. And so in my experience, it's just you just know it as it is without commenting on it at all. So you don't have to comment.
Oh, okay,
You
so
don't
I was
have to
doing it all wrong.
Yeah, don't comment, don't think. Just know the feeling as the feeling. And what you want to know is the beginning, the middle. You want to know the entire breath, beginning, middle, and end, even the spaces in between, the beginning, middle, and end of the out breath. And whatever thoughts come up, whatever comments about the breath, you kind of ignore them. And you just stick with the knowing. And yes, every breath will be different. And yes, as the mind gets more sensitive, there's a lot of sensation in one breath, much more than people realize. But we just stick with the knowing of it. We don't need to comment on it. And,
Okay, so I was doing it all more logically than I should have.
well, I think this is normal. I was
Okay.
saying before, people who've had been educated, who have a lot of thinking minds, we tend to do this. We tend to over intellectualize, and it's actually more simple. The hard part is doing it enough and doing it consistently. That's the hard part. The methods themselves aren't that difficult. The hard part is sticking with the boring ordinariness of it until it becomes profound.
It's so great talking to you because you're so passionate about what you
Breath
talk
meditation.
that you
I
can
love breath
see
meditation.
through the video that you're just loving it.
Yeah, breath meditation is like my home.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
Wishing you all the best.
Sadhu. I know. Sadhu, sadhu.
Michelle in Adelaide.
Sanachan, I would like to ask you, in the Jina Panjari chanting, what does it mean by, well, I have to find it. Sorry. The trouble beginning with those bound by the power of the Victorian realm, with 7 fortress wall arrived against them, may all adversity within and without, beginning with those caused by wind and bile, come to a complete end. What does it mean by those caused by wind and bile?
Bile on wind, is it?
Yeah.
So I think that has to do with like karmic afflictions, I think, in the body. So when the wind element is experiencing some imbalance, or the bile water element is experiencing some balance. So it's like the prayer that the prayer and dedication that the body functions in harmony with things causing imbalance or disease to be pacified. So yeah.
Thanks, Gordon.
Okay.
John, maybe I could ask a quick question, if that's okay.
Of course, Stuart.
So with your kind of intensive meditation retreat in Bodhi, and then returning to the monastery with your duties there. How have you managed to keep some of that energy? Take the practice back with you?
I left my suitcase on my bedroom floor 3/4 unpacked, so that I have to step over it or step around it every time I come to my kuti to remind myself, you've just been on pilgrimage and you made these aspirations, you made these vows, you made these adhitanas, because we can just slip into our old habits straight away. And so I've left an obstruction in the middle of my pathway to remember remember those vows you made on. So I'm pretty regular with my practice anyway, and it's more just trying to do it for longer sessions. So I do meditate before arms round, I do meditate after arms round, I do meditate in the afternoon, but I'm making the effort to just make sure it's for a longer period. And that, that just means doing less of the other stuff. So I haven't been able to do as much water painting as I was doing last year. Water painting of lotuses, my new hobby. And yeah. And it's interesting because Venerable Sampano is doing a similar thing. He is trying to maintain now, because he saw the specific benefits of sitting longer, so did Tanjol. It's like, we just kind of see that it's like, oftentimes it's a bit of a struggle. You sit for half an hour, you sit 40 minutes, you sit for 45 minutes, and there's that sense of, okay, got a little bit of peacefulness, the meditation's over now. A bit of restlessness comes up, or pain in the body. But when you're sitting for a 3-hour period, or 2-hour period, or a 3-hour period, you have to get through that, wriggle a bit, keep sitting, get past the hindrance, get past the restlessness. And what happens is the mind will often come to a more peaceful state for a longer period. And so anybody who wants the really deeper, more profound results from practice, generally we need to become, have longer sessions. So yeah, it's just being strict with that. Okay, I'm already on my pillow, but just don't get up. Just stay there a bit longer. Be strict with the amount of hours again. And it is also helpful when there's another monk in a monastery that's doing a similar thing now. Tan Sampano made a commitment to doing 6 hours a day, and Panya Siri is actually working on getting from 7 to 8 hours a day at the moment. So I have some good Kalyana Mitta, and that's nice. Just seeing the effect of other monks who are trying to practice similarly, very helpful. Get to the pillow a bit sooner, get off the meditation pillow a bit slower.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's no more questions, we've got about 20 minutes left, Ajahn, so you could meditate further for the next 20 minutes. Yeah. Would you like to head off now or join us for the meditation?
I'll sign out. And, I'm going to my meditation pillow, but I'll go and do that, yes.
Okay.
I'll meditate with you in the ether. I'll be there with you.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So we can all pay respect to Tan Ajahn Achalo now.
Wishing you steady progress in your mental cultivation. May every blessing support you.
Sadhu.